Oh guys, it's really been a really long time since we've last met. And so I guess what we're going to do today is we're going to watch all our videos that we have made, and maybe we'll share some thoughts and some behind the scenes stories. So shall we start from the very start, Anjang's video?
I've tried to understand this dementia for so many years. I feel him, but one thing I hate when he overwhelmed me.
So I worked on this very first video with Anjan and Ellen and a lot of other SMU students. When we met him, he was, very interesting. He was able to articulate himself. If you came across him in your everyday life, you probably wouldn't think that he got dementia. But I think that's the reality with a lot of these, say, illnesses, like mental-related illnesses. Sometimes they're invisible. You can't see how the person is dealing, how their family is dealing with it. And so I thought our video, does very well to show how he lives his daily life, how he came to his diagnosis, and how his wife, his caregiver, came about learning how to cope with his diagnosis and helping him live, a really fulfilling day-to-day life as well.
We need a platform to make sure people understand. Then we have coffee talk with Anjang. Coffee talk with Anjang means with me. And I don't give any talks or whatever. We straight away, we go for question and answer. Because when you see one person with dementia, it will not be the same with another one with dementia.
Oh, so at that point, he was actually showing us his Facebook group or his own initiative to be an advocate for dementia. And you can see that's how he lives his independent life. He's actually the one running it, trying to organize talks, trying to get invited to talks. Yeah, so I think that was really great to see.
One day, definitely, I will lose everything. My functioning, my mind, everything I will lose it.
That really strikes a chord because I think we are in our 20s. Yeah, and I guess this is the age where our parents, our loved ones will be in their 50s, 60s. Yeah, if we have grandparents, then maybe even older. Yeah, I guess this is also like kind of the age where perhaps their mental capacities will potentially begin deteriorating. I mean, like sometimes we'll see our parents become a bit more forgetful. This is really a reminder that it's never too early to start planning for when we are old.
Yeah, one thing that really impacted me was when Anjang said that he would lose everything, and I think one key thing that dementia patients do lose is their memory. So my great-grandma had dementia, and so during one Chinese New Year, she knew my name, she could recognize me, but then the next Chinese New Year, she said, 她是谁, referring to me, which means who is she? And so this idea of losing everything really struck me, and I remember this incident very clearly in my mind.
Yeah, so thanks for sharing, Lauren. Yeah, so I mean, as you can see, the LPA is quite important, right? And this idea of mental capacity. So actually, we did hear from a medical doctor as well, right, on some of these issues. So shall we now take a look at that video?
In Singapore in 2008, actually there was the Mental Capacity Act that was actually established and passed in Parliament. So what it actually does is that it allows people who have decision-making ability to actually appoint someone else to actually take charge of their affairs if they lose mental capacity one day. What it also does as well is that, because as you can understand, not everyone will have mental capacity currently, right? There will be people who already don't have decision-making ability. So what that law actually does as well is that it allows the court to appoint some people called deputies to make decisions for these people who already do not have that decision-making ability.
When my granddad was near the end of his life, due to a failing heart, actually, the LPA allowed my mother to help make decisions on his behalf, be it comes to treatment, whether you want to move him from one ward to another ward, like how do you handle his Medisave for payment of his hospital bills, and then, drawing of his funds from his bank account to, arguably in preparation for funeral services when he does pass on. So it really is very important on this point about making decisions on behalf. And it's because of this LPA that my mother and her siblings were able to help my granddad make decisions. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So when did your mother had the LPA done up?
So I think we did it quite late because they only realized that it was quite an urgent matter when my granddad started to fall ill quite rapidly, and he deteriorated at a very rapid rate. And we were quite lucky that he was still counted as able to make decisions on his own behalf, because right after that, I think a couple of months later, he was not really able to comprehend very complex questions when you pose it towards him.
Yeah, so I think that sounds like a really good area to also consider, like your medical needs, and also just shows even like small things like withdrawing money from your ATM. I mean, these all decision needs to be made, right? And that's what the LPA can do for us.
Yeah, and I guess it makes a lot of sense, right? I think like we put a lot of thought into like, what insurance should I buy, what investment should I make, so that I can be able to help my loved ones in the future, right? But then I think we always forget that, hey, one day when we lose mental capacity, without an LPA, actually we can't touch any of this. Yeah, so I guess like if you really do all this, why not take one further step just to make an LPA? You do it once. And as our minister has said, right, when we make an LPA, what we are doing is that we are actually making a gift of certainty to our loved ones. Yeah, but I think our target is to have 240,000 people aged 50 and above to make an LPA by 2025. Yeah, but I think we are still a bit behind target on that lah. Yeah.
Actually, Ivan and I did this video where we got on the ground and like asked the general members of the public as to what an LPA is and stuff, but we realized that actually most of them don't know what it is, and they're actually under a lot of like misconceptions as to what it's about and like why they should or should not like do it.
No need lah. Later I apply, then I touch wood, later I gonna bang my car or something. I don't want.
这个要牵涉到，比如说他的经济状况，如果你收的费用太高的话，他就会考虑说不要做这个决定。
Last year, my parents asked me to be their donee because like they're the kind of people that like to prepare for the future. And I guess that a lot of people are under the misconception that it's like really inconvenient or maybe even expensive to get an LPA, but actually it's quite affordable. And for us, like we did the whole thing in one sitting, and I even approved to be a donee like on SingPass. So the whole thing was super convenient, and I would encourage everyone to do it.
No, let's say I have two relatives. I get them to be my So would that be a conflict? Like how to deal with that?
I think getting a deputyship is a lot more inconvenient because you have to apply to court instead of just like doing the application online. So getting all these applications in early would like ameliorate all of these struggles.
Thanks, Sonia. So speaking of deputyship itself, we actually did a video on the deputyship, and it actually featured Seok In and her son Ryan. In this video, we'll talk about the importance of a deputyship to her and her son. So why not let's watch the video together.
He became 21, there's a lot of things that kicked in, like his CPF, you have SingPass. We realized a lot of things that I can't just log in his IC, because everything is linked up to the mobile phone. So all this couldn't be done.
Well, you know what she said about Ryan turning 21 and then she having to think about it, it was really quite a scary thought, because we take for advantage whenever we turn 21, and then we can do whatever we want. Yeah, but just goes to show how much she had to think about it for her child.
I feel that getting a deputyship as early as possible is really useful, so that at any one time, like you happen to walk into a CC and ask for SingPass, they say, "Who are you?" I'm the mom and I'm deputized to do it.
Yeah, so guys, actually, after watching this video, right, I had a question now because earlier we were talking about how LPA is so easy to apply, right? You can just go online and click, right? But then from my understanding, I think deputyship, you have to go to court, right? Appear before a judge. Yeah, so I was thinking, wouldn't that be very stressful, yeah, and costly?
Yeah, I guess so. But I think the people that go to court can rest assured that the family court judges are actually really kind and understanding people. So I had the chance to talk to one of these family court judges, and I really felt at ease knowing that he was actually really sympathetic for the cases of all these applicants. And let's see what he has to say in the next video.
The most important thing that we always have to bear in mind is that the decisions made must be in the patient's best interest.
There's always this misconception that judges, they make the decisions and therefore they are probably more removed from the people like laymen or people that are not in such a position. But I think meeting the former district judge, Colin Tan, really corrected my misconception that I had. He was really warm and understanding, but he also had a lot of passion for his work. And he went down to the old folks' home of his applicant just because he needed to find out more information, and so there was something quite special.
Speaking about experience, we have a very special guest with us today, and that is Mr. Alan Seng. So for our viewers out there, Alan has actually been something like a mentor to us throughout our 5 videos. He has been very kindly and generously sharing his experiences with us. So yes, we are very happy to have with us Alan.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's really been a pleasure being able to work with such an enthusiastic and passionate group of volunteers. Project Aging really started out as a response to the aging population and the legal problems that can come with it. So if you look at the 5 videos that we did, we've covered a very wide gamut of issues ranging from dementia and mental incapacity. We've covered the struggles of caregivers. We've also looked at what mental incapacity means at law, had a better understanding of the court processes with DJ Colin, and we also got to look at the LPA, the lasting power of attorney. And hopefully, I hope the viewers will find the series of videos useful in helping to better understand this area. Now, going forward, why not let's hear some takeaways from our volunteers. Let's start with Lorraine.
Right. I think one thing that I really appreciate about Project Aging is that it helped me to see the practical aspects of law in everyday life, and this was something that I really struggled with as a year 1 student.
I think we are all at the age where our parents are in their 50s, some maybe 60s even, and our grandparents even older. Yeah, so I guess doing this project made me realize that actually we can really start doing something to plan forward, and that's the LPA lah.
Since I was involved in the LPA video, I realized that actually a lot of people in the general population have no idea what this is all about. So we should be spreading awareness about these things and making it known to general members of the public.
Nearing the end of my grandfather's life, he actually was no longer able to make decisions on his own, and the LPA actually comes in to really help and allow my mother and the sibling to actually make decisions on his behalf so that he can have a better end of life. What came through is that, I'm just very happy that, with the teammates, we actually got to be part of the journey to educate the Singaporeans on these various methods that will help ensure that they have a better end of life. Yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to bring to the audience, that you actually personally should have LPA from a very early start. You don't just wait and do it until you're older or do it only for your parents. Yeah, and that's why we wanted to do these videos, to reach out to the younger generation, to let them know that they should also start thinking about the LPA.
I think it's very heartening to hear and to see how you all have also grown throughout the past 2 to 3 years on this project. Thank you very much, really, for all the hard work behind the scenes. So, Ivan, any final thoughts?
Yes, so actually that leaves me to conclude and to really say a big thank you to everyone who has made this project possible, right? So yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.